Are you at work, sitting behind your desk, or perhaps you're on the factory floor, feeling overworked and underappreciated? Well, according to a study conducted by Bloomberg News and the Microsoft Corporation in March of 2021, it found that 54% of global workers are feeling overworked and 39% are feeling underappreciated. If you fall into this category, then engaging in this conversation over the next half an hour ought to be something you give strong consideration to. In his 30s, Jeff Davis had already begun to build and run multiple successful companies. However, he was working 80 hours a week and feeling unfulfilled. He turned to travel and building a sense of a strong community of support amongst his fellow entrepreneurs and CEOs. Throughout his travels, he founded the National Community for CEOs and Entrepreneurs known as the 12 Mavens. He also founded the popular strategic planning event for CEOs and entrepreneurs known as the Plan of Attack. Davis now lives a fulfilled life, which he says gives him the appropriate balance between work, life, and play. He and his family have now traveled to 29 countries and counting. To that end, Davis took some time out of his planned adventures to join me this week, all the way from Thailand, to tell me how we can all strike the appropriate work-life balance. If you want proper perspective on how to live a fulfilled life, then Davis is someone you ought to make some time to get to know. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. We began our conversation by Davis detailing why it was so critically important for him to make a work-life balance pivot, to live a more
Yeah,
fulfilled
so
life.
I was early 30s. I think when you're in your early 30s, you're kind of in this warrior mode a lot of times. And I was definitely that. I was going, hardcore and working every night, every weekend. I'm one of those guys, I believe you have to fight like hell for a dream. And so for me, fighting like hell meant staying up sometimes till 3, 4 in the morning at the office, sometimes getting there at 3 or 4 in the morning. And I did that for several years until I finally hit a wall, burned out, and reached my capacity for how long I could push that hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you discovered that you enjoyed traveling, and it sort of gave you a solace from what you were dealing with. And you created the 12 Mavens for CEOs and entrepreneurs. And you also founded a popular annual strategic planning event for CEOs called the Plan of Attack. So I'm wondering if you can tell me all about it.
Yeah, so when I reached, thank you for asking, when I reached my pain threshold, realizing something's got to change. I can't keep doing this. And so I decided to go get out of the office and just go to a coffee shop with a notepad and a pen, nothing fancy, and just figure it all out and try to figure out a way that I could have a business that I could have a business, but also a life at the same time. And so I drove about 55 minutes out of the city I was living in and set up shop there. And I spent hours and hours and hours, just everything I could think of. And then slowly it started to improve. And then I started to go back there and do that same thing every year. I'd go by myself and plan out my attack. And over the years, I started to think, wow, this could be a thing where other entrepreneurs and CEOs can go, and we could all go through these kinds of questions and exercises as a group together. And so in December 2013, for the first time, a small group of us got together and we called it Plan the Attack. And we've done it every year since.
Jeff, I'm curious to ask you, based on your experience and your own personal expertise, I'm curious to ask you about striking the appropriate work-life balance where you still feel that you were being a value add at work, but also prioritizing your own life as well. How do you think we strike the appropriate balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's different for everybody, and some people will tell you their way is the way it should be, and other people will tell you their way. You hear grind and hustle, but then you also hear, work a 4-hour work week. And so how do you decide which one is one of them right and the other one wrong? I think it's, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and it's whatever is right for you. I don't remember where I originally heard it, but I've heard the expression work-life integration versus work-life balance. I think in today's world, when you have your office in your pocket with you, it can be real easy to go into your office just on the fly at any given time. And so it depends on what kind of work you do, but if you can integrate them in a way that works for you, then that's winning, not what anybody else feels is the right amount of hours or the right amount of balance. I'm here in Thailand, which is 12 hours later than East Coast time in America. And so, while I've been out here, I've reshifted my work schedule to where I'll wake up, I'll exercise a little bit, then I'll work for a few hours, then I'll take a little time off. Then I'll work a little bit, then I'll take a little time off, and my wife and kids, go to bed, and then I hop on a couple Zoom meetings, which is different than what I was doing in America.
Yeah, creating your own schedule gives you a sense of empowerment, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's sometimes it can be hard to stick to it, and or you feel weird about not doing certain things at certain times or doing things at certain times. But I think there's a quote by Bono from U2 that's the world is more malleable than you think. And so I think just having that belief and then acting with that belief.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Jeff, full disclosure about myself. I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And part of my passion project in life is sort of bringing to bear more equitable opportunities for individuals with disabilities to succeed at work. So I'm curious to ask you, Jeff, based on your experience, how do you think we can infuse more individuals with disabilities into the workforce?
Yeah, I think now is probably the best time ever in history for that, because everybody's working remotely. You can get a job done, again, depending on the industry and the type of work. But sometimes, especially when I was traveling a lot, I would see how much work I could get done on just my phone, and see if I could go, how long I could go before I had to be like, I need my laptop for this. And then I'd pull my laptop out. But it was almost like a game. I try to see how much I could get done on just my phone alone. And you could use your voice. You could be laying, you could be laying on the sand on a beach and getting productive work done nowadays, because you're tapped into your CRM, or you're tapped into Slack, or you're tapped into whatever tools you're using. So I think as long as you have fingers and you have a mind, and even if you don't have fingers, you can do so much with voice dictation now. Or you could you could get a virtual assistant that you just dictate what you need them to do for you. I think there's a Tony Robbins quote, or if you don't have the resources, you just need resourcefulness. So I think you're only limited to your own resourcefulness. There's always going to be obstacles, even for anybody. You take the most quote unquote successful person on the planet, and they've probably also had the most obstacles. So you just...
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, for my money, Jeff, you've taken the whole concept of passion and purpose to the next level. I know that you've dissected human cadavers at a medical school. You've also competed as a skateboarder, and you've taken your family to 29 countries and counting. So tell me, Jeff, where does your thrill of adventure come from, buddy?
Yeah, I would say it's probably partly connected to having ADD. It's like I have an inability to sit still. I started skateboarding as a teenager, maybe 13, and I think I had it in me to want to be really great. If there's something I'm passionate about, I want to be great at it. I ended up in my 20s starting a skateboard company, because I take the thing I like and how can I make it into a business? Traveling, before we even started traveling, my family and I would do things like Wednesday nights, we'd call it Around the World Wednesdays, where we would pick a country and we'd make food like that country. We'd play music that's from that country. My kids and my wife and I would all have to bring a couple of facts about that country to the dinner table. On a good night, my wife and I would get some wine from that country. And we did stuff like that before we finally just went for it and started actually going to all these places. But it goes to that the world is more malleable than you think. It's just that belief that why can't we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, I've been waiting all day to ask you this question. So here it goes. I'm curious to ask you about your perspective on the power of introspection and trying to put everything in life in the proper perspective. I'm curious.
It put everything in life in the proper perspective.
Yeah, what does that mean to you? The power of introspection.
That's a good question. Since you said you were thinking about that question all day, I want to make sure I I don't disappoint. I think everybody has their own opinion of what that means and what that means to them. I think some people could feel so strongly about what that's supposed to mean that they try to convince somebody else on what it's supposed to mean. And I think it's whatever that means to you, whatever gives you happiness. We could chase all these different things that we hope would make us happy. We want the fancy car, or we want a bigger house, or we want, whatever, fill in the blank, because of how we internally think it'll make us feel. And so I would say, instead of trying to chase all these things that you hope will give you happiness, just make your goal happiness. And so I filter all my questions in life, making decisions. Sometimes it could seem like a difficult decision, but then I filter it through, will I be more happy? Like, not will I have more revenue, not will I make more money, not will I whatever look cool, but will I be more happy?
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, Jeff, my a follow up to that question is, we always hear the phrase, life is too short and live it to the fullest. And certainly, I would put you in the category of living life to the fullest. So tell me, what does living a productive and meaningful life mean to you?
To me, it means trying to reach your potential in a lot of different ways. So it's not just a certain amount of money in the bank, or a certain job title, or a certain car. To me, it's, am I a good husband? Am I a good father? Am I a good son? Am I a good brother? Am I healthy? Am I eating well? Am I exercising? Am I taking time to be grateful? Am I having fun? Um, am I contributing and doing something that helps other people? It's all of those things that make the whole picture. I know a lot of quote unquote successful people that are like really out of shape. They eat like crap. They drink like crap. They're terrible parents. They have a successful business, but they're, couldn't care less about their kids, or, all these different things where they're good at this, but they're very unsuccessful at this. To me, that's a meaningful life, is when you feel like, and we all get knocked out of place in different categories. We might be doing good in the business and we realize, whoa, I haven't talked to my parents in, too long, or what have I really done to give back, lately, or all these things. We fall off. We're working out a lot, then we hurt our back, and then now it's 6 months later, and you never went back to working out again, or you started eating unhealthy again, or all these different things. To me, living a good life, a meaningful life, a life to the fullest, is trying to be the best that you can be in as many of these different areas as possible, not just chasing just one of them, like money in the bank or sales, or you know what I mean, or just the one or two things and then neglecting all these other things. I used to literally have a Post-it on my closet wall that said, like, be a good husband, be a good father, be a good brother, be a good son. So I'd see that every day when I'm getting dressed and getting undressed. So it's not just, do we have leads? Am I getting sales? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, I'm curious, with all of the stamps on your passport and all of the travel adventures that you've had, what's been some of the most exhilarating experiences that you've had, either personally with your family, or professionally?
Yeah, I would say the most exhilarating ones traveling are with my family. There are a few standout moments. I jumped off a cliff in Montenegro. That was as scary as hell, running off the end of a cliff. And then, next thing you know, it's a long way down and you can see cars going under you, and you're as high as like a plane almost. That was pretty crazy. In the south of France, there's a place called the Gorge du Verdon, which is like, this beautiful blue water and cliffs on either side. And we rented a tiny electric boat and went down this path, in between these cliffs on the super blue water, and then jumped in the freezing cold water. That was a good one. Feeding monkeys in India, flying down a snowy slope on a snowboard in Austria, eating foods in a market in Paris. I mean, I could go on and on.
Yeah, Jeff, I have to tell you, you could make your life into a traveling movie if you wanted to, buddy.
I did on YouTube for a while. I was documenting some of these adventures on YouTube. They're still up there. I called it The Climb, and it's The Climb with Jeff Davis. You can still find some of those videos on YouTube. Me trying to figure out how to grill a steak in Spain, and jumping off the cliff, and Oktoberfest in Germany. Um, you know, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, tell me, how do you think, as a society, we can draw just a little bit closer to establishing societal unity, where we're all trying to work towards the common goal to making sure that all opinions are valued and that we all have a voice in sort of contributing to society? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think so many people these days, especially now in America, they're so either like blue or red, and they're so strongly, like this is the right way, your way is the wrong way. And I think if people would hear other people's sides, understand that different people have different perspectives, different people feel strongly about different things, and that's okay, as long, and at the end of the day, like for example in America, we're all living in the same country together. I feel like back on September 11th, when the World Trade Center got hit, everybody in America overnight was all on the same team, and I'd never seen so many American flags on front doors, and everybody was on the same. It was like the same team together, and so I hope that over time they could have their strong opinion, one side or the other side, but they would understand, maybe seek first to understand and then to be understood, is the old quote from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And everybody's sure that their way is the right way, but to maybe be understand that different people feel differently about different things. And as long as at the end of the day, we're all humans, we're all on this floating ball in outer space for a limited amount of time, and then we're all going to be gone. Hopefully, hopefully people, that maybe it turns a little more purple, the red and blue.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, finally, tell me, if you had an overriding message for how you wanted your life to be viewed, how do you think you would want your personal or professional legacy to be defined?
One time I told my wife that when I'm an old man towards the end of my life, if you could give me the choice between whatever the most expensive, exotic car that anybody could ever dream of, or a letter from somebody that said, whatever, 40 years ago, you helped me, you gave me some advice, you told me this, and here's what happened, and it turned out that they had this great life because of something that I said, an influence that I had on, impact that I had on them, I would take that piece of paper over that car a million times over. So I would say that, I feel like, if I can make a waiter or a waitress laugh, that's a win that I'll stack on top of the next one. If I could make the person at the checkout at the grocery store smile or laugh about something, that's another little tiny win that I'm going to stack up on there. If I can help through our community of entrepreneurs and CEOs, 12 Mavens, if that helps somebody grow their business to to have less stress, be a better husband or wife or father or mother, and be able to hire more people and be a great boss, and those people come home happier and less stressed. If an entrepreneur in 12 Mavens is able to take their first vacation in 5 years, all those types of things, if I could in some way be a force for good in that direction, that would be a very satisfying life. If after I'm gone, nobody remembers me and knows who I was, that's fine with me. But if the impact was made, then that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeff, finally tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that, buddy?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Jeff Davis. They can find me on 12mavens.com. Yeah, those are probably the best ways. I got to get better at social, but every now and then on New Year's Day, I've been known to take entire social media platforms right off my phone for good. As a way to start a year. Yeah, Instagram gone, Facebook gone.
Well, I have to tell you, Jeff, sometimes living a simpler social media life is an advantage, isn't it?
It is. It's too bad that it is such a part of marketing these days, because it definitely is important for marketing in modern times. But I guess I just got to deal with that, because I do love marketing, but I do hate social media.
Well, I have to tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know a little bit about your personal and professional story, and certainly you've given me plenty to strive for when it comes to gaining the proper perspective. So I want to thank you for the good work that you do to help people sort of put their lives in perspective in both their personal and business life, and for joining me this morning, Jeff. It's most appreciated.
I appreciate it, man. It's an honor to speak with you. You asked great questions, and I hope that was helpful to you and to your listeners. And anytime I can help, man, I've enjoyed it a lot. Thank you so much for having me.